Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers preliminary alcohol screening devices, driving while intoxicated, and field sobriety tests, and is brought to us by Law and Crime Network's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Around 3:30 a.m. on May 28, 2022, in O'Fallon, Missouri, Officer Nathan Dye of the O'Fallon Police Department pulled over Police Chief Greg Hall of the neighboring Hazelwood Police Department for swerving while he was driving. Officer Dye exited his cruiser and approached Chief Hall's vehicle with his body camera on.
How you doing tonight, sir? Do you have your driver license and insurance? Where you come from tonight?
I'm actually from the halls, the White Castles,
Oh, okay. The reason why I pulled you over, you've been weaving quite a bit.
Well, I know, because I was eating my...
okay, eating while you're driving. Okay. How long has it been since your last drink?
couple hours.
Couple hours? Okay.
I'm a police officer.
Where you work at?
Hazelwood.
Hazelwood? How long have you been out in Hazelwood?
Since 1979.
Oh, wow.
I'm actually the police chief.
You're a police chief? Hazelwood? How about this, Chief? Just so I feel comfortable knowing you're not intoxicated and you're okay to go. Can you just recite the alphabet starting with letter D and ending on the letter N without singing? So D to N without singing.
D, E, F, E, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, Q, R, S, T, U, that's waterway and stop.
And do you have your police ID and stuff with you? Greg Hall says he's the chief of Hazelwood. So, Chief, before I can let you drive, I have to confirm you're not impaired, okay? So we could either start with the PBT, see if it's necessary to do field sobriety, or I could have you do some field sobriety tests.
Let me think for a minute.
Okay, no, take your time, Chief. How much longer do you have left out at Hazelwood? Are you just...
9 months.
9 months? You ready to be retired?
It's open.
So we'll do this and go from there, okay? So deep breath for me, Chief. I'm going to hold it. Just blow hard until that. Hang tight right here. I'll get back with you, okay? You just live right up the street. Do you have your service handgun with you in here? No? You don't carry off duty?
Nope.
No?
Never.
Hang tight, I'll be right back with you. So, Chief Hazelwood, he is hammered drunk right now. He's over at 2. Yeah.
Officer Dye informs his supervisor that Chief Hall's blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, was over 0.2% when he performed the breath test. According to Section 577.012 of the Missouri Revised Statutes, quote, "A person commits the offense of driving with excessive blood alcohol content if such person operates a vehicle while having 0.08% or more by weight of alcohol in his or her blood." This means that Chief Hall's BAC was more than 2.5 times higher than the so-called legal limit, although individuals can be arrested for driving while intoxicated even if their BAC is less than 0.08%. Under Section 577.010 of the Missouri Revised Statutes, an individual commits the offense of driving while intoxicated if they operate a vehicle while in a so-called intoxicated condition, which Section 577.001 defines as, quote, "when a person is under the influence of alcohol, a controlled substance, or drug, or any combination thereof." Both driving while intoxicated and driving with excessive blood alcohol content are Class B misdemeanors for first-time offenders, and an individual who operates a vehicle with a BAC higher than 0.2% is subject to a minimum term of imprisonment of 5 days. However, it's important to note that the roadside breath test that Officer Dye administered on Chief Hall was conducted with a preliminary alcohol screening, or PASS, device, which is less accurate than the larger breathalyzer devices that officers use to collect evidence of an individual's BAC after they have been arrested and brought to the station. For this reason, Section 577.021 of the Missouri Revised Statutes states that while pre-arrest roadside breath test results can be used to establish probable cause to make an arrest, they are not admissible in court as evidence of blood alcohol content. While the more accurate breath tests used at police stations generally have safeguards to prevent false positives, PASS tests can return inaccurate high results due to interference by residual mouth alcohol and other breath contaminants. The term residual mouth alcohol alcohol refers to the alcohol that remains in an individual's mouth for about 15 minutes after they take a drink. If an individual takes a pass breath test too soon after drinking, the breath sample will include some of this leftover alcohol, and the test result will be higher than the individual's true BAC. For this reason, officers are instructed to observe the subject for 15 to 20 minutes before conducting a breath test to ensure they don't consume any alcohol or products that contain alcohol, such as cough syrup, mouthwash, or breath spray. It does not appear from the body camera footage that Officer Dye followed this 15-minute rule.
He is hammered. He was dodging sniper fire out there, weaving all over the place.
Is it all on the dash cam?
Yeah.
The driving and all the contacts so far?
Yes.
He's the current chief.
Yeah. Just completely butchered the alphabet.
You got field sobriety?
I haven't done field sobriety yet.
Yeah, this is a tough day and age, man, you know, when you have electronic things and technology. I'd handle it like you handle anything else.
All right.
It's your call.
As eyes only. You would just stare at the tip of my finger right here, okay? You realize the position you're putting us in, right?
I understand. I'm not doing anything. I'm sorry.
Right foot in front of your left foot, heel to toe on that line. Keep your hands at your sides, okay?
I got bad ankles.
Bad ankles. How old are you, sir?
66.
I'm just going to have you stand like this, or if you're not able to, just stand like that. Let me just go ahead and explain and demonstrate this test for you, okay? So when you get to your 9th step, you're going to leave your lead foot in line, take a series of small steps, turn around, take another series of 9 heel-toe steps back upon that yellow line, okay? Until you've completed the test.
Thank you.
I just need you to remember, hang on one second for me, sir. Just not able to do this.
Officer Dye asks Chief Hall to perform several field sobriety tests, the last of which he cannot complete. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, which is an agency of the U.S. federal government and part of the Department of Transportation, has developed and validated 3 standardized field sobriety tests that officers can use to assess whether an individual is intoxicated: the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the walk and turn test, and the one-leg stand test. While some officers may also perform other tests on individuals they suspect of driving while intoxicated, these 3 tests are the most widely accepted in the law enforcement and legal communities. Of the 3, the horizontal gaze nystagmus test is thought to be the most reliable. When administering this test, an officer will have the subject follow the motion of a small stimulus, such as the tip of a pen or pen light, using only their eyes. The officer will then observe the subject's eyes as they move from side to side, looking for an involuntary jerking of the eyes known as nystagmus, which becomes more noticeable as an individual's BAC increases. According to the NHTSA, this test is 88% accurate at detecting subjects at or above 0.08% BAC. In addition to the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the NHTSA has recently recognized that vertical gaze nystagmus tests are also a reliable indicator of intoxication. The vertical gaze nystagmus test is conducted in a similar manner to the horizontal test, but instead of moving the stimulus from side to side, the officer will move the stimulus up and down. The other 2 standardized field sobriety tests are known as divided attention tests because they require the subject to concentrate on mental tasks and physical tasks at the same time. The walk and turn test requires the subject to walk heel to toe for 9 steps, turn around, and take 9 heel to toe steps back to their starting location while counting their steps out loud and looking at their feet. This allows officers to measure the subject's ability to follow instructions, maintain balance, and walk in a straight line, among other things. The one-leg stand test requires the subject to stand on one leg for 30 seconds while counting out loud so that the officer can assess their balance and ability to process information. Here, it appears that Officer Dye performed the horizontal gaze nystagmus and walk and turn tests on Chief Hall, but did not attempt to administer the one-leg stand test.
You know what? Just talk to Johnny. Please. I don't know what to do. Lock me up. Sure.
I don't want to. I mean, you saw what happened in Chicago, right? With their chief police, and they look. I'm liable. This is all on camera. How's it look if I don't do my job?
John Nesky, Chief Nesky, is on his way.
He's on his way up here.
He's on his way. And we did our job.
It's all being on camera.
No, hey,
Chicago. I'm sure you remember when that whole superintendent.
Listen, I gave and I'm still in Gordon. I gave a courtesy to my supervisor. I wanted him to be aware of what our decision was and give him the opportunity to make a different one or contact the chief of police. And he contacted the chief of police, and he lives down the street, and he'll be here shortly.
Perfect.
Throughout the encounter, Officer Dye makes several comments about an incident that occurred in Chicago when expressing his concerns about the possible results of this traffic stop. He is likely referring to a 2019 scandal involving the 7 officers from the Chicago Police Department who were caught allowing former Superintendent Eddie Johnson to continue driving after he was found illegally parked and intoxicated in a CPD vehicle. On October 17, 2019, Chicago police officers responded to a 911 call from a member of the public who found Superintendent Johnson asleep at the wheel of a department vehicle while illegally parked in a lane of traffic. The body camera footage showed that although 7 officers were involved at the scene, none of them administered a chemical breath test or any field sobriety tests. Instead, they allowed Superintendent Johnson to drive home while a supervising officer followed behind his vehicle. The Chicago's Office of Inspector General investigated the incident and uncovered video footage showing that earlier in the evening, Superintendent Johnson and subordinate Officer Cynthia Donald had, quote, each consumed several large servings of rum. The Inspector General's office ultimately concluded that, quote, multiple sworn CPD personnel failed to effectively carry out their duties by failing to conduct a competent investigation, failing to gather the evidence necessary to determine whether the superintendent was fit to drive his vehicle, and allowing the superintendent to drive his vehicle knowing he was unfit to drive. As a result of this incident, all 7 officers involved were suspended. Superintendent Johnson announced his retirement less than a month after the incident. And in December of 2019, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot removed him from his position as superintendent, demoting him to his former rank of lieutenant. Superintendent Johnson then resigned a few days later. In October of 2020, Officer Donald, who was caught on camera drinking with Superintendent Johnson on the night that he was found sleeping in his vehicle, filed a lawsuit accusing former Superintendent Johnson of sexually assaulting and harassing her for several years. Former Superintendent Johnson has denied these allegations, and as of the date of writing this episode, the case is still pending in federal court. It is clear from Officer Dye's multiple references to this comparable situation that he was concerned about the potential consequences of allowing Chief Hall to continue to drive, particularly because everything that occurred was being captured on his body camera.
I will back you 100% in any decision you make on that.
Don't want to lock up a chief or
No,
another
he's
officer.
hammered, though.
He's hammered, and he doesn't have VGN. This is a common thing for him. Chief will get up here and decide.
When we're done here, I'm going back on patrol.
Yeah.
Nathan, if I take him home, or are you going to have any issues?
Not at all. Not at all, Chief. I'm sorry to get you out here. I just
No, that's
want to make
okay.
sure.
That's okay, because you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I
Nope.
will take him home. I have known him for a lot of years.
Yeah, no, understandable, and again, sorry to wake you up, Chief.
Nope, that's okay. He and I are going to have a long talk on the way home.
Sorry, sir.
I'll take it. Nope. You did your job. You did your job.
O'Fallon Police Chief John Neska arrived on the scene and proceeded to drive Chief Hall home without a citation or arrest. Chief Neska retired a few days later. His retirement had apparently been planned for a year, and the city claims it was unrelated to this incident. A spokesperson for the Hazelwood Police Department refused to say whether Chief Hall is still in his position, but as of the date of writing this episode, he is still listed as the Chief of Police on the department's website. The St. Charles County Prosecutor's Office, who would be responsible for pursuing charges against Chief Hall, stated that the O'Fallon Police Department has not requested that the office review the case, and even if the prosecutor's office attempted to pursue DWI charges, it would face a battle in the courtroom. Chief Hall's attorney, Travis Noble, claimed that the chief was not intoxicated when he was pulled over, and criticized Officer Dye for failing to observe Chief Hall for 15 minutes before using the pass device and continuing with the walk and turn test despite Chief Hall's alleged knee problems. In a statement to the media, Mr. Noble stated that, quote, "Had they asked him to go to the station and take a breath or blood test, he would have done it and shown that this is not a situation where he was drinking and driving. There's no indication that I've seen that he was drunk. There's no evidence that would ever be presented in court and be able to show that he was driving under the influence of alcohol. Notably, Officer Dye received the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award of Excellence in DWI Enforcement in 2017 and 2018 while he was employed at the Ellisville, Missouri Police Department. Overall, the O'Fallon officers get an F for showing obvious favoritism towards Chief Hall, failing to collect the evidence necessary to gain a DWI conviction against him, and driving him home with no consequences instead of arresting him. As Chief Hall's attorney pointed out, it appears that Officer Dye made several mistakes during the pass and field sobriety testing that could allow the evidence to be attacked in court. Further, even if Officer Dye had observed the 15-minute rule for the pass test, the BAC reading would not be admissible in court to prove Chief Hall's BAC. By refusing to arrest Chief Hall and obtain a more accurate BAC reading at the station, the officers failed to capture crucial evidence and made it much more difficult for Chief Hall to be prosecuted. Although I appreciate that Chief Nesca drove Chief Hall home instead of allowing him to continue to drive, it is inarguable that a citizen would have been arrested and prosecuted, particularly given Chief Hall's excessively high BAC. This kind of corruption and preferential treatment in police departments drives another wedge into an already divided society and makes it nearly impossible for citizens to trust the officers that are supposed to be serving their communities. Chief Hall also gets an F for getting behind the wheel while clearly intoxicated, driving recklessly due to his impaired condition, and endangering the lives of everyone else on the road. Despite his attorney's claims, Chief Hall seems to be noticeably impaired in the body camera footage, and he seems to admit as much by apologizing to Officer Dye for his behavior. While it is possible that Chief Hall could be acquitted in court based on reasonable doubt, that does not mean that he is innocent of driving while intoxicated, and it is unfortunate that it does not appear that he has been held accountable for his actions. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.